Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I have my 1 month, 1 palette update for you guys. So in the last month I was working with the Anastasia Maya Mia palette, but before I start talking about that palette, there was one eyeshadow from the month before, so from my Naked palette, that I still had to make a decision on because I wanted to try it other ways and see if it worked. If you guys don't remember, it was Sidecar from the Naked 1 palette, which is the shadow right here, which I really love the color. However, I had issues with the fallout. I've tried it multiple ways. I've tried it with Fix Plus. I've tried it with like patting it on with my fingers. I tried tapping my brush off to remove any excess. I tried with a glitter glue. Everything that I've tried didn't work out, so for that reason I am going to declutter this shade. Although it's a beautiful, beautiful shade, I cannot stand the fallout, so I'm decluttering that one. Now that brings me to the actual palette that I was using for the last month. Is what it was, as I mentioned, the Anastasia Maya Mia palette. It's the palette that I'm wearing on my eyes still today. I have made great discoveries and I have shadows that I'm a little bit meh about on this palette. So I'm going to start off by including clips of the looks that I wore during the last month. I think I filmed like 3 or 4 clips that I'm going to insert right now of the looks that I came up with. Please keep in mind that my lighting situation is not perfect, so it kind of washes out the eye look a little bit. Sometimes they're a lot brighter than they actually appear on camera. So this is the look that I'm wearing today from the Anastasia Maya Mia palette. I have Gold Bar as an all over the lid shade. I have warm brown in the crease. I have a little bit of deep brown in the outer part of the eye, just to warm, like to have a little bit of depth. I also have a little bit of black liner, so it's not only that, but I added a little bit. I actually really enjoyed that shade for that. I didn't expect it to. And then in the brow bone highlight, I have some vanilla, and then I have a little bit of aqua under my eyes just for a little pop of color. So this is the eye look that I came up with today. I am wearing all over the lid as a base the vanilla shade, and also up by as a brow bone highlight. Then I put down Gold Bar all over the lid over top of it. I put the vanilla shade just so that Gold Bar would pop a little bit more. In the outer corner of the eye, I'm putting on Sienna, which is like that kind of reddish shade, and in the and all over the lid, in the outer part of it, I've put down caramel just to make things a little bit warmer, so it goes like from golden into like kind of I would say like something like a little bit more orangey, brownish orangey, and then into a more reddish color. And then at the bottom of the lid, I've put down caramel as well. And then in the outer portion here and a little bit over the top of the lash line, I've put the deep brown shade that I had. So that like complete the look. And as you can tell, like I winged it out just a little bit with the deep brown shade and with a little bit of black liner. So this is the completed look for today. Okay, so for today's eye look, I have vanilla all over the lid as a base shade. Then as a crease shade, I went with warm taupe. And then at the outer part of the eye right here, to deepen it out, I went in with some deep brown. So this is pretty much what completes the look. I also used a little bit of black pencil liner on my eyes today as well. So now I am going to do like a breakdown of the palette and what I liked, what I didn't like about it. As I mentioned in my last update, my palette is into a Z palette because I depotted all of my palettes. Also, there are missing shadows from here. I think there originally are 10 shadows. I have only 8 because I have decluttered in the past the ones that I had dupes for or that I just didn't want to reach for. So I'm gonna start off by my least favorite eyeshadow in the bunch and why I didn't love it. It was actually the shadow that I was the most looking forward to trying out, and it is this one at the bottom right here, which is Glisten. Glisten is kind of a peachy shade with shimmer. Again, same issue as with Sidecar last month. I had a lot of glitter fallout with that eyeshadow, which made me dislike it quite a bit. And also the shade of it on my lids made me look like I had a pink eye. Like the shade was just a little bit too pink, it was not pink enough or peach enough to like pop, and it was just enough to make me look like I was sick. So this is definitely not a flattering shade for me. Although it's a beautiful shade in the pan, I cannot pull the shade off at all. So this one I will actually be letting go of. So the shadows at the top are the one that I'm keeping. Then continuing on with like my least favorite, these two shades are shades that I like but that I have slight issues with. Mostly because they are not as pigmented as you would expect them to be. So the beautiful aqua shade right here is just stunning. However, the color payoff on that one is not crazy good. It's like it is very washed out next to the actual shade, and you really need to build it up. And whenever, like, if I swatch it on my hand afterwards, it kind of doesn't show up as much. So as an all over the lid shade, it was really a pain to apply. However, like if I wanted to wear it as a bottom line liner, it actually worked very well. So as a liner, this one is good. As an all over the lid shade, you have to use it like with Fix Plus or something like that. Otherwise, it doesn't pop as much as I would like it to. Same thing a little bit for that gold one. Not as bad as with the blue one, but it again doesn't have the greatest payoff for a shade ever. Is it bad? No. The gold is definitely better than the aqua shade, but it still has a little bit of that issue. The other 5 shades in the palette are really, really good. The vanilla shade is like a white shade that has a little bit of a pearlescent finish, if you will. It's not a glitter, it's really like a little bit of the satin. It has a little bit of a glitter, but it pulls more satin on the lid. It is perfect as a brow bone highlight as far as I'm concerned. Then I knew that I was going to love these 2 shades, so I don't remember. There's one which is called, the reddish one is called Sienna, and the top one is called Caramel. So I knew that I was gonna love these 2 shades, and they were part of the reason that I was using that palette for the summer, because they are nice warm crease shades and I really, really like them. I also play with them a little bit all over the lid, and I like that as well. They're pigmented, but they're easy to blend. They work really, really well. The 2 shades that I didn't expect to like from that palette that I actually turned out loving are the 2 other shades. So this shade right here and this shade right here. So the lighter shade is called Warm Taupe, this one right here. And then the dark one is called Deep Brown. So Warm Taupe is a great shade as a transition shade and as a blending out shade. It is quite neutral. It's really not that warm, although it's called Warm Taupe. It's really more of a taupe shade for me. And I really liked it, and whenever I was using the really warm shade and I wanted to bring it down a little bit, that was really working out well. And if I was wearing vanilla all over the lid, that was a perfect crease shade as well. So I really enjoyed it. And then the deep brown shade, which I didn't have a clue what to do with, because it's not black and it's not really brown. Like when you apply it, it looks like a washed out black. Like on my finger, it doesn't look brown at all. It really looks like a washed out black. But it turns out that for smoking out the outer V and for doing a little bit of a smokier eye, like I have it on the outer part of my eye today, and to add just that little bit of smokiness without going like really black and overboard, I think that this shade is just perfect. So this one is actually one of my favorite shades from that palette, and it's really a discovery that I made because I was forcing myself to use all of the shades. So I really enjoyed that shade, and I'm really happy that I used this palette this month just to find that shade actually. Okay, so my biggest, the thing that I liked the most about this palette was that there were great like blending out shade, transition shades, and like brow bone highlight, as well as like a smoking out shade. So I really thought that those basics were really covered. What I think that it was a little bit lacking in is an all of the lid shades. The shade that I wore, the 2 shades that I wore the most all over the lid were Gold Bar and Vanilla. vanilla. I used a light hand with, and it just brightened a little bit my lid, which was fine, but otherwise I felt like this was lacking in that department. If I was able to wear glisten, that could have been a good all over the lid shape, but since glisten didn't work out for me, that was the one thing that I was a little bit lacking in that palette. However, I think that the shadow quality is really great for the most part, and I think that the crease shades are really great to work with, and they are like a little bit different from the crease shades that I usually use. They are a little bit warmer or a little bit cooler. They're not just in between, so I really like that about it. But as I mentioned, like, I would have liked to have a great all over the lid shade in there, because for me there wasn't. I like something that's a little bit shimmery all over the lid, and I ended up having to work with a little bit of the matte all over the lid just because I felt like that was lacking in the palette. Okay, so as I was going to edit this video, or actually the day before editing this video, I was looking at my eyeshadow collection because I was starting to play with the items that I wanted to use up for next year, like to start through my makeup and decide what I wanted to use up. And I realized that there was one eyeshadow from the Maya Mia palette that I didn't pick up to put in my Z palette when I was doing my 1 month mod palette. It's the shadow that is right here, which is a fresh peach. So I didn't review that shadow based on the fact that I didn't have it in my palette. I thought it was a shadow that I decluttered, but apparently not. So it's a kind of like, when I was talking about the lack of all over the lid shade, this could be used as an all over the lid shade. It has a bit of shimmer, so it's not a perfect crease shade, but it could be worked all over the lid. I'm wearing it today. I'm going to try and get in closer a little bit. That's what I have all over my lid. I have a little bit of gold bar on the inside, and then I have two of the crease shades blended in, and a little bit of the dark brown in the outer corner. So that's pretty much what I have on my list today. I'm not sure that I'm such a big fan of this shadow for the same reason that I wasn't the biggest fan of the glisten shade. I feel like it's one of those shadows that makes me look a little bit more tired. It is like leaning on a peach, and it looks like my eyes are sore or something like that when I wear it. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I will try it again. Maybe not this month because my palette is huge and I have a lot of shadows to go through, but either this month or the month after that, I'm going to keep it in a separate Z palette with items I'm working on, just to remember to actually try and use it and make an opinion on if I like it or not. So if I want to declutter it or not. It might end up being decluttered, I don't know at this point, but I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that there was one missing shadow in my whole update that I just talked about. Okay, so that brings me to next month's palette. I have put it into this unique palette just because it is a little bit too large to fit into my Z palette, in which I usually put my shadows in. But it fits into this, so it's going to work just fine. There are again shades missing from this palette. It used to be 20 shades in the palette, and now I only have 12 left. This is the Vice 2 palette from Urban Decay. So I think it came out like 2 Christmases ago, if I'm correct. So these are the shades in here. It's a lot more colorful than the other palette that I was working on last month, and I feel like this one is the complete opposite of last month's palette, in the sense that last month's palette had awesome like crease and transition shades, great matte shades. This one doesn't have that many matte shades. It's more glitter, like either shimmery or glittery or velvety type shades. They're not like full-on mattes. I think there are 2 full-on mattes in here, which are this one and this one. These 2 are really matte. Then this one has like a little bit of a sheen, and then all of the other ones that have some kind of sheen to them. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just that there's that one color lacking for the brow bone highlight and for the crease shades. But I'm gonna like use other shades from other palettes to fix those 2 little extras. I'm really looking forward to this one just because there's a lot of color and it's going to pull me out of my comfort zone for sure. There is one absolute great shade in here. This shade right here at the bottom, this one, which has a little bit of that sheen, is like my all-time favorite all over the lid shade. It is called Dope. I absolutely love this shade. I think it is just the perfect all over the lid shade for every day. So I'm really looking forward to using that one. It was part of my Panda palette for this year, but I actually took it out and replaced it for something else, just because since it was a limited edition shade, I couldn't deal with not having it in my collection anymore. So I'm happy to play with it for a month, but I don't want to be panning the shadow anytime soon just because I like it too much. There is a lot of color in this palette, as I'm mentioning. Also, just a quick side note, as I mentioned, I got rid of 8 of the shades in this palette. 4 of them were either black shades with glitter in them or almost black shade with glitter in them. And then the 4 other ones are because they were either, technically I had something too similar to it in my collection. So that's why I don't have them anymore. But these are the ones that I kept. So I kind of arranged them a little bit by color family. These are really neutral shades, and I have browns. This one has a lot of glitter. I'm anxious to see if it has a lot of fallout because it's really a glitter shade. And I have another gold as I had in last month, but this one is a little bit more of a warm gold instead of just a true yellowish gold. This shade might a little bit do the same issue as the peach shade from last month and give me a pink eye look, but we're gonna see about that. And I don't think that this one actually has glitter in it, so like the fallout issue I might not have. The 2 pink ones, I'm really curious to see if I'm going to be able to do something with them. I don't typically wear pink, like that type of a pink on my eye, so we'll see if I can do something with them. And then the 4 ones at the end, this one is just beautiful, beautiful gray shade. It's really metallic and shimmery and really, really intense. You can tell right here, it's on my finger, and that's just a light swatch. So honestly, this one is really like it's a silver shade on steroids. And then you have like the 2 blue shades and then the deep green shade. My goal for the next month is really to use every single one of these shades to get an opinion for the shade, and also to know if I would actually reach for them, just because there are a lot of shades in here that I haven't reached for in a very, very long time. So I'm really looking forward to trying out these shades, and I will let you guys know if I like what I thought of the palette as a whole. So this is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye bye.